Hello and welcome to the SenseSync Act podcast. I'm your host, Audra Nash. Today we're talking about indoor drones with Doron Ben David and Amit Moran, who are co-founders of and the CEO and CTO, respectively, of Indoor Robotics. They're innovating in the space of indoor security and maintenance with their unique ceiling docking drones. We'll be discussing the technology and business aspects of their work, from indoor navigation challenges to their market expansion plans. They'll also be sharing their journey building their robotics company during COVID. As always, thank you to our founding sponsor, Open Robotics. Let's get started with our conversation. Hi, everyone. Doron, would you introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Doron Ben David. I'm CEO and co-founder of Indoor Robotics.
Awesome. And Amit?
Hello, so Amit Moran. I'm a CTO and co-founder of Indoor Robotics.
Mm-hmm. Now, Doron, would you tell me a bit about Indoor Robotics? What do you guys make? What's the mission?
Sure. So at Indoor Robotics, we make Tando. It's a fully autonomous drone fleet for safety and security monitoring of indoor spaces. Um, yeah.
Awesome. Amit, would you tell me what it looks like?
Oh, how it looks like? Well, it looks like I don't know, like a drone. The size of it's the size of the size of a Roomba, if you want. Of with propellers, it has propeller guards, prop guards around it. And since it's an indoor drone, so if by mistake someone walks into it, it won't cause any harm.
Mm-hmm. So it's a drone and or it's a quadrotor and it has propeller guards so it doesn't hit stuff. So people can bump it and they just hit the guards, not the propellers. It's roughly, would you say like 18 inches by 18 inches kind of thing? Or I don't know, 45 centimeters by 45 centimeters roughly? Or
It's a bit smaller than that. Yeah, it's a bit smaller.
gotcha. So a little smaller than that. Um, and the interesting part to me is how it docks. Doran, want to tell me about how it docks?
Sure. So one of the things that we are very proud of is the understanding at a very early stage of the company. This actually happened in 2018. That the right place to dock monitoring devices is the ceiling. And hence we developed the tile, which is the docking station, which can replace an existing tile or just connect to a drywall or a concrete wall, a ceiling, not a wall. And the device docks on the ceiling. So it can still provide value, which is a very big problem in robotics while it's docked.
Oh, it's basically a security camera in the meantime, or what does it do?
So yeah, it's a security camera. We also have a thermal imaging sensor, so we can also sense motion. We can do anything from alerting on movement to capturing footage to monitoring temperatures, ambient temperatures, counting people in some use cases. So all of those while the robot is docked on the ceiling.
That's so cool. And how do we dock? So it's a tile, you're calling it tile, and it's something that you stick on the ceiling, and the drone flies up to it and kind of hits it. And is it a magnetic connection, or how does the drone actually attach to it?
So yes, it's as you mentioned, it's going up and it just connected magnetically to the tile. It's not an electromagnet, so no, it won't fall
Power goes
if
out.
we
That would be
yeah if
horrifying. Yeah.
yeah definitely. So no, it's strong enough to hold it, and even in case of an earthquake. Um, yeah, and one of the things that we are proud of is that there is no mechanical mechanism that can be seen with human eye. So it just like magic, it disconnects and goes to patrol.
Hmm. Amit, how does it work? How does that mechanism work for disconnecting easily from the tile?
So, yeah, mate, go for it. You're the father.
I'm the father. Yeah, so as Ron said, it's magnetically docked to the tile. We created this mechanism that eventually the magnets are the magnetic power is between the docking station plates, which are inside the tile, and the magnets that are on the drone. And when we send a detach command, basically, and we have a lot of security mechanisms in order not to do it by mistake, we basically um, taking up some parts inside the tile, very small distance, and basically removing reducing the magnetic power in such a way that the drone can basically just detaches. So you need to actively create a power force in order to detach it. So this is why it's very safe.
So is that actuation in the tile? I assume it is because I imagine it'd be kind of heavy to move these because you need the motors to. And so you have your tile. How big is the tile? So it's the size of the drone roughly, and it's probably somewhat thick.
Yeah. So it's about 50 centimeters, and it's about inches. You'll help me with the translation there.
19.2 inches, if I'm not mistaken.
You're prepared.
And it's about I think about 3 inch, 2 inch.
Hmm. And so you have these motors in the tile, or maybe one motor that's going to move these magnets further away, and that creates the magnetic field gets weaker, and thus eventually gravity pulls the drone down. And by that point, you're spinning the propellers, so it doesn't just fall, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. Was there was there a consideration between moving the magnets up away from the magnet directly or to the side to just try to disengage it? Or
We had a lot of ideas, and we actually implemented several solutions. Also with electromagnets, also with different mechanical methods to attach and detach. We found that if you want to keep the size of the tile of the docking station to a minimum and have the highest reliability, we found this the best method.
mm-hmm. Now, Doron, would you tell me more about why on the ceiling? Like, why does it have to be on the ceiling for a monitoring drone?
Sure. So not only monitoring drone, most of the monitoring sensors that we are used today are based on the ceiling. There are plenty of reasons. The first and obvious one is the line of sight. When you're on the ceiling, you can see most of the room. So that's obviously the first one. But the other one is that it's quite not used real estate. You have your lighting structures and probably some fire equipment, but other than that, the ceiling is quite empty, while the floor is stacked to the max. Yeah.
Gotcha. So real estate and line of sight, those are kind of the two reasons, the two primary reasons.
I would say, yeah.
Okay. And then so this is the first drone like this that I've seen. Why are more people not doing this kind of approach? Like why are we not putting more things on the ceiling? I know security cameras and things go on the ceiling, but why not more robots?
So actually, it's a very good question. I would say that the first one is it's not easy to implement it. There's lots of different considerations that had to be taken into account. Both in the engineering and other aspects. And the other one is that we kind of thought about it back at 2018 when we started. I mean, we understood that it's really a unique, advantage for us. So in a way, we are protecting it with some patents that we filed. So we do hope to see more companies doing something similar, and we hope to collaborate with them.
Huh. So what are the patents exactly, or like what are the nature of several of the patents?
So obviously, everything with attaching a robot to the ceiling with different methods of attaching a robot to the ceiling. We tried to claim, basically everything unique. We were the first to actually implement.
I think also that it's one of the when we tell people about how we do and how the drone is attached and where it is, and a lot of people are saying the same as you. Why we don't see it? It's great. It's a great idea. We should see. It's like it's a haha moment. Yeah, it's the right way to do stuff. And I think and it's when we started. When we did it and we got this feedback from people, we understood we have something. We have something big.
Yeah, for sure. And I do imagine there's a lot of engineering challenges in doing that well. Like dismounting was probably challenging to time that with the magnetic field disengaging when you pull back those. Charging, I imagine, is another thing. Actually, Amit, would you tell me how you actually use charging with the tile? Is it inductive? That would might screw up the magnetic field. Like charging and data are two interesting areas with this. Would you tell me about a bit about those?
Sure. So it's very simple. Charging is just two contacts of pogo pins. We wanted to do as fast as possible to charge back the batteries because, as you know, it's an important thing for
Yeah,
robots.
drones deplete pretty quick. Well,
Exactly.
especially flying ones, quad rotors. Like, what do you get? Like, is it 15 minutes, 20 minutes of time moving around, or how does it? How much time do you have on a single charge?
Yeah. So we have several generations to working on. Also now, I think right now the the one which is in production is about 10 minutes of flights. For we have like to get a full charge about 30 minutes. Um, yeah, um, so it's important to get it very fast.
Yes, for sure. How do those pins engage? Like, is it very precise how you plug the robot in, or how you plug the robot into the tile, or is it like half of it is charging a positive and half is negative, or how does it work?
Yeah, so it's exactly that. Half is half and half. So it's very easy. You just it's in some cases when you need to manually place it on the tile, you just like stick it like yeah, you just throw it. Or you don't really throw it, but just like put it up. And it attaches by itself because it's magnets and it's charging. So it's very easy to work with.
Does that does that mean you have the pins far apart on the robot? So like maybe they're on each one of them is on like an arm near a propeller, and so they're separated by almost the width of the drone, and so thus when you go up, there's a big margin for error in the positioning on the tile. As long as it's facing the right way, it's very likely you're going to be charging fine. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are two surfaces on the top of the tile, the top of the drone. You can see it in some of the images. Basically, when they touch the docking station, it's impossible to basically to dock it in the wrong manner because the way mechanically the tile and the drone are designed that you cannot basically do it differently. Yeah, if you do it 180 degrees, yes, you can, but then it just won't charge. You have all the protections obviously in place.
Oh, it is directional in that. Okay.
Yeah, but then you get the error and you just sort it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, that seems like a clever approach to me.
In any case, it's autonomous, so it's autonomously. So yeah, there's no problem.
How do you handle data transfer also? Is it just wireless, or is there any sort of faster connection that you make with it to upload all the video and then process it somewhere, or how does this work?
So wireless, just Wi-Fi. basically one of the things we're doing is that each Tando is connected directly to our backend. So this way it's horizontal scalable. We don't have one point of contact or failure in each site. Each drone is connected directly using Wi-Fi, and yeah, that's it. Between there is also communication between different Tandos on site, and between the Tandos and the tiles, docking stations, drones and docking stations, which is not Wi-Fi.
Gotcha. What's that communication?
We're using Zigbee protocol. So for very standard IoT protocol. So it's pretty robust.
Now, Doron, how did you decide to, or like, what was, and I know you guys are both founders, what was the initial decision to have a drone indoors? Because to me, it's interesting, especially in environments where people will be going through, like offices that you want to monitor or wherever, because I think of noisy and I think of things possibly falling or banging into things, which maybe has been solved with good sensing and good path planning and things like this. But just tell me a bit about the idea of bringing a drone inside for monitoring.
Sure. So actually, there are plenty of reasons why we've chosen a drone as a platform, and it's quite important to say that both Amit and I, we are not drone people. Today we are 5 years into this incident. So we obviously kind of became drone people.
Drone people. But
when
you
we started,
didn't have a hammer. Like, it wasn't a person with a hammer. You weren't like, we're doing drones for everything. You pragmatically chose this, is what you're saying. Okay.
So we knew that we are going to start something with robotics. We knew that it's going to be in the area of monitoring indoors. 2018 was the year when everything people or VCs were talking about was autonomous cars. Just to take you back then, they said that by 2020 there are going to be autonomous cars all around us, and kind of we said, no, it's going to take longer. There is regulation and everything. We are going to do something indoors. So that's how Indoor Robotics started. And the specific use case of monitoring, seems like the lowest hanging fruit that not many companies it was still a blue ocean. It's actually still today a blue ocean, but not many companies were.
Like, it's like a green field, it's totally open?
Yeah, so there is the blue ocean, which has lots of opportunities, not many players, and there is the red ocean, where everyone, the cleaning robots, the Roombas, this is a red ocean.
It's competitive. It's red because of blood in it, because of combat.
Exactly, lots of
saying?
sharks. Lots of sharks inside.
I've never heard that, but it's a nice, well, a brutal way to phrase it.
We are. So we are coming from Israel, so we sometimes we invent our own idioms. But now I think this one specifically is not something we invented, but we can take the credit if needed. So so just emphasize about that. When we understood that what we want to do is monitoring indoors, we went to the drawing board, and we understood that the reason companies are not doing that is because it's really complex to navigate AMRs, wheeled robots, autonomous mobile robots indoors. There are many reasons why. The first is that different types of surfaces, if you have items on the floor, you need to, you have only 2 dimensions to avoid those obstacles, obviously. And last is that in order to give value in monitoring, you need to be at least as high as a human being. And you can see companies, great companies, by the way, like Cobalt Robotics and Nightscope. And they developed really big robots, which, from bill of material, from BOM perspectives, are quite expensive. And And therefore, it's very hard to get those devices in, small, medium enterprises. And what we wanted to do since day one is to be very cost effective. And to do that and to be able to monitor in different heights in warehouses, which could, get to 40 foot high. And in places where we can't really control what the flow looks like. We understood that the three-dimensional navigation is actually required, and we were looking for other companies in that field, and we couldn't find any. So this would look like really a good opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So what about with the negatives of a drone? You have only, it can go for, I mean, you're saying 10 to 30 minutes depending on full charge. So you have a limited, you can go 5 minutes out and 5 minutes back in some cases. If, like, say it's in an office environment, you have that you could blow papers and things everywhere. You have noise if you wanted to operate during the times that people are around. How did these considerations weigh on the decision to use a quad rotor as a platform?
Yeah. So actually, with some of those we see as advantages. For instance, the noise. In use cases where we perform security, provide security services, the noise is actually a
That's a
deterrence
deterrent
factor.
for people.
Exactly.
Does it? I
Exactly.
mean, it could also give people a chance to hide. They're like, "Oh no!" But I guess they see it because, like, it's like you hear around, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna go hide behind something. But I guess it also might just keep people out, like a barky dog or this kind of thing.
Yeah, and think about a human guard who is walking, and there are lots of comedies, featuring those guards. So really, at the end, you understand that handling burglars is probably 0.001% of what a security guard actually does, and 99% is just making sure that everything is
Is in
okay.
order.
Exactly. So for that you can say that the fact that we are docked on the ceiling, we like to call it, at least for the security use cases, we like to call it a security camera by day, security guard by night. So once the office is empty, we can go without violating anyone's privacy, because you don't want to put security cameras in an office space. It really, yeah. So during night times, we can respond to anomalies. Let's say a motion detector that triggers for some reason. We know where this motion detector is located in the premises, and we can go directly there. Now, another question that you asked is about the 10 minutes flight time. And 10 minutes indoors is a lot of time. Yeah, you can cover, think about a human being, a patrol that a human being can do during 10 minutes. Let's say that you walk at the pace of let's say 3 foot per second, which is
You can get pretty far, yeah.
yeah, you
And
can
this
get
can
pretty
go
far.
over things in how it
Exactly.
takes its path. So yeah,
Exactly. So we can cover today in 10 minutes, we can cover areas of 20,000 square feet.
that's amazing. Okay, well that makes great sense. What about, so a few things kind of stand out at me as challenges, and maybe Amit, if I could get your perspective on this. What about connectivity? So if you're having a big building and you round a corner and the Wi-Fi drops off or something like this, like, I imagine it's a challenge to stay connected in large buildings in a 20,000-foot warehouse. Do you need routers everywhere, or how do you deal with this challenge? Or maybe it's all on board while the drone is flying.
So you're absolutely right. There is a big challenge there, and the way we designed it is that the Wi-Fi connectivity is not needed for the flight. So everything that we need to do in order to complete the mission is happening on the drone, on Tando. So it means all mission planning, obstacle avoidance, navigation, capturing data, stuff like that. If you have connectivity, you can see it real time. If you don't have connectivity, no worries. Once mission will end, everything will upload to the cloud, and you'll get everything there.
Gotcha. So you have to make sure when you pick your locations for the tiles to go, that they have Wi-Fi connectivity there at that location. But otherwise, you can go and explore these locations without connectivity and then come back and upload if you lose connectivity. Whereas you can also see the live view if you do not have connection issues.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, that seems like a good approach. How do you deal with mapping and this kind of thing? So I'm in an environment. There's a door. The door might be open, might be closed. If you fly through and then the door closes, well, now the drone can't get back for this kind of thing. Do you make it so it's like the drone only patrols a location that is like a contiguous space that'll never be blocked off? Or, and then how do you define regions like that? Like, how do you plan where you put the tiles, I suppose? And you have the big advantage, as Doron mentioned, where you can scale because the cost is much lower than like a Cobalt robot, or I forget the other company. I haven't interviewed them yet, so I don't know them well. But so how do you position the robots? How do you do the mapping, Amit?
Sure. So there are several answers for that. Also, you can have several tiles per drone, but the drone can hop from one tile to the other. And if you need a larger space with a single drone, you can just set several tiles. So you don't have to go back every time to the same one. So this is this gives us a 10 minutes of full flight if we need a large area.
Yep, because you can just go from one spot to another. That's great.
Exactly. And
surprised I didn't think of that. That's actually a wonderful
thing
about how you guys have designed your system. Yeah, you pass it around.
Yeah, exactly. So this is for that. How we design. So if a drone, so your first question about what happened if something changes, for example, a door closes while the drone is inside a specific room or something like that. So the drone will detect that it cannot go back to where it's supposed to. It will try. It will see the way it closed, try to avoid it if someone is standing and doesn't allow it to pass. If it's a drawer and there is no way to go, it will go back to another tile if it exists, which is closer and can arrive there. If eventually it cannot, it will alert that something happened and will land. So this is kind of the fail-safe mechanism.
The different modes, of failure.
Exactly. And how we plan it. So no, it really depends on the customer. It depends on the premises. We have installation in warehouses, data centers, offices. So it really depends. In some cases, we do place several tandos in several locations, and they operate independently, and each drone has its own area. One installation we have 4 or 5 floors. Each floor has its own installation. They are working as a fleet together, but they all has their own area, so they won't pass to each other. In other cases, they can work together in a specific area, and they might have an area they need to patrol, or through the cloud system, we can basically manage this complex maneuvering.
Yeah, and then so that sounds great. How do you deal with doors in general? Like, if depending on the office you're patrolling, I imagine like they may have a bunch of doors separating things, and so like the Cobalt robot has like a little arm for spinning one of those door handles. I know doors have been a big challenge in robotics. Do you just try to make it so there's like one per room, and that you can do that because it's cheap enough to have one of these platforms? Or how do you do doors, I guess?
Basically, yes. We don't open doors. We are. The drone. It's a data collection platform. So it basically it doesn't manipulate objects in the space. So if the door is closed, it cannot manipulate. If it's a automatic door, and a lot of other, doors, it's a big problem for any older robots. I think it's a big, it's a big robotics challenge. And we don't try to solve that. If it's automatic, we can obviously integrate and open it and ask it to be open. But usually, how we do, we put just it's affordable enough to put one in each side of the door. It's usually what we do.
Yeah, gotcha. It's really nice that you guys have an inexpensive platform. Like that really enables a lot. Uh, Doran, would you tell me a bit about kind of, I don't know, like the cost compared to other, so you were saying it's a lot less expensive, the bill of materials than other companies, say Cobalt. Um, how would you just tell me a bit more about that? Like on what order of price reduction are we getting, do you expect? And how much roughly?
I will answer with we are currently in the middle of building the pricing strategy, so it's quite hard to get into specific numbers. But I can quote other companies developing similar solutions to give you a sense. So Amazon, they acquired Ring a few years ago, and they kind of, it's September 2021, if I'm not mistaken, they revealed that they are working on an indoor drone. They call it the Ring Always Home. And their price tag was about $249 per device. So this is
That's
obviously,
remarkable.
yeah, so that's obviously something that Amazon and Ring, they can do that. So we are more expensive, but that gives you a sense
Similar
of
order. Maybe it's
um,
500, maybe it's like around there.
so it gives you an idea of how low you can get when you have a very small device with a very small bomb pricing, and obviously a service model behind it.
Yeah, I'm amazed. Like the DJI drones that you can get these days for $1,000. Like my first thing in robotics was working on quad rotors, and they were expensive. It was like 10 years ago or 15 years ago now. Um, and they were expensive and they were hard to do and they didn't come with any features and they crashed all the time. Like the navigation software was terrible and all this stuff. Everything has gone so, it's advanced so much in the last years. And like you can get a fairly sophisticated drone for very little cost now, which is absolutely mind blowing. Like what a great space to invest in, I think, because of the huge decrease in cost that we see in the drone space. Um,
Definitely.
mhm. So you have this, and then as compared to like one of the security guard robots, how much would you think those cost? Like it might be like, is it like 5K? Is it like 20K? I don't,
Yeah, so at least I don't know specifically for Cobalt, but for Nightscope, they are a publicly traded company. So it's their numbers are published, and they tend to replace the security guard. So their pricing model, they started with a pricing model which was very similar to a security guard wage. We are giving you an hourly wage per device. And I think that today they charge some monthly fee, few $1,000s per month. If I'm not mistaken, it's around 6K per month for a robot, but I'm not 100% sure about that.
yep. So something on that order though, several $1,000s for this kind of thing. And they are doing it as a robot as a service model, probably, because you basically pay for it for a period of time. And they'll do the maintenance and eat the cost of buying the platform and this kind of thing.
From one of our customers, we know that he received, an offer of 12K per month for a single robot. For a single robot, yeah, 12K per month. And obviously, we provided the service at a fraction.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really exciting. It's really interesting because then these kinds of things, like, I mean, I've seen a few examples in this podcast where you get a huge reduction for very similar huge reduction in cost for a similar performance for this kind of thing. Like some of the cleaning robots have some incredible payback ratios in terms of like a few months, and they've paid themselves back. And so it sounds like this is a similar space, whereas if you're hiring a security guard at night, now you can just have a small fleet of inexpensive robots and they do a similar job. And you can have people on call just in case there is an actual thing they should handle. What is your and Doron again, what is the business model around this kind of thing? I know you said you're figuring out a pricing model, but do you expect it'll be a robot as a service platform where they buy some fleet for some period of time and you set up the tiles for them with some, like they have a minimum commitment or something of this many months? Um, or what do you think?
That's actually a very good question. And here really comes the fact that we are not just doing security. As Amit mentioned, we created a data collection platform, which is good for several use cases. So in a way, we are used to seeing that there is, the human being that needs to be replaced by a robot. But that's not the case where we are aiming to. We are actually creating a new category in between stationary sensors, such as cameras, motion detectors, thermal sensors, and so on, to human beings. And it's kind of mobile IoT sensors in that sense, and we can augment each category. So we can work with human beings. Maybe we can reduce a few people in a shift. Maybe we can shift resources, the human beings, to do the things that we excel in, and not just, repeat those dull, patrols all over again. On the other side, we provide mobile sensors. So in some use cases, we are not really competing on the wage, the hourly wage of the human being. We are competing against hundreds of cameras that you would install in a warehouse, for instance, to cover this warehouse. So it's really a new category that we are playing in. And as I mentioned, it's not only for security. Today we are installed in a warehouse, working with some global food player. And we monitor the warehouse for this company, finding all of those little dents to shelves, places where someone with forklift damaged something, boxes that are placed in a problematic manner, and so on. So this is really safety checks that we are running. On the other side, we are installed in a data center where we monitor temperatures of equipment and trying to alert if we notice any leakage or any water inside the facility. So those are really two different use cases. And then obviously we also have some facilities where we do security.
Hmm. Now, so a thing that strikes me about all of this, how large are you guys as a company? Like how many people?
Yeah, so we are a bit more than 40 full-time employees.
Wow. Are they all in Tel Aviv or?
No, we actually we have some in the States, but the R&D is based in Tel Aviv.
Hmm. Gotcha. So it sounds like many domains. The way that I would think of this, and maybe you're at a different stage than I understand, it seems almost like trying to find market fit. Like you're trying all these things and you're seeing which one will stick really well. And then maybe it's like explore. And then if you find one that's a really good business model, then you can exploit and kind of grow quickly with that. Is that where you think of yourself as being at in the company? Or is this many services model the way that you want to proceed with the company? And it's not so much trying to find market fit as it is just diversifying application, building out a feature set? Or how do you think of it?
So The market fit, we met the market fit, I would say about a year ago, with the security industry. And you meet the market fit when you get orders of the same service, of the same device all over again. So you don't need to customize anything in the product. And at some point, after we had several customers where we did security, we said, okay, what is the next opportunity for us to grow with the minimal efforts? And then
So
we
you're
went
growing into new spaces. That's where you're
exactly,
at as a company.
exactly,
You're going,
exactly.
what can I do with my basically flying sensor payload that would provide value and is not too much work for us?
Definitely.
Gotcha. I like the approach. That's very cool that you are looking for kind of other opportunities to meet the market where it has demand, and you found a really good one. How does that look on your team? So you have some people kind of focusing on security, or is that all like mostly done? It's just maintenance, and then you have the team focusing on these new applications like warehouse maintenance or not maintenance, monitoring to go and look if boxes are off and there's safety hazards, this kind of thing. Most of your team is focusing on that for the research, or how does it look?
Yeah, so actually, this is Amit's domain, but what I can say is that once you grow from one use case to the other, when you don't need to change the platform because the platform can navigate and can collect the data, what changes between those use cases is the layer of data processing. So while in security use cases, what we run, the neural networks on is detecting people and detecting um, um, deviations from one baseline to the other. In safety, we will apply some geometry analysis on the data collected, and in data centers where we do preventive maintenance, we will run thermal profiling that we extract from the data. So what changes from one vertical to the other is the data science layer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're processing. Yeah, processing of the data basically, and what do you do with that? Amit, would you tell me a little bit more about that and kind of how the organization of your whole platform is? So you have like the core behavior, navigation, docking, whatever, and then you probably have your application specific layer on top of that. Um, how does all that look?
So we have inside R&D we have kind of two big areas of focus. It's exactly what you said. There is the platform, developing the platform. It can be since we have this unique way of docking and navigating indoors. We are developing the drone, the docking station. We're doing everything. It's like real full stack. So we're from hardware, mechanics, so embedded algorithms, so collision avoidance mapping, etc. And there is as you said, kind of the application, so the cloud and application and infrastructure to support at scale and the analysis of data. So there's kind of two big focus areas, and we are continuously developing both. So new generation of Tandos, which has better sensors, which are can see better, can understand better the environment, can process the information on the Tando itself, while the infrastructure cloud, we are continuously developing new models to analyze the data, as Doron said, and provide more value, better value for our customers.
Yeah, and so the split with the data processing is generally the robot goes out and gets the data, records everything, and then when it gets back to its station and can upload, maybe it's uploading while it's flying if it has connectivity, but so it's transferring that, and then you have servers somewhere that go and crunch on the data to go and identify things, and then the results will then be passed to the customer somehow or through some interface or something.
Absolutely.
That's the
So we have we have what we call the Tando control bridge. This is how we are. It's where we process the data and also where we present the data. It's the interface, it's the command and control interface of the Tandos, so you can see all the missions and alerts and anomalies detected in that interface. And we have integrations. You can get those alerts through SMS or emails or to what is called VMS, it's video management systems at buildings. So this is how the security industry is working. They have VMSs, and they are where usually all the sensors are going to. So we have integration also with that, and so you get all the data there.
So what does your tech stack look like? Kind of starting from the drone and then going up. Are you guys using the robot operating system, or are you using your own thing, or how does it all look?
So yes, we are big fans of ROS. I was when I started in robotics, I'm working for Intel. I'm working the RealSense project. Was kind of one of the first interfaces for us for the RealSense cameras. So we love ROS. We're using ROS. This is also what we're using on the drones.
Are you using ROS 1 or ROS 2?
We are using ROS Run, and we are in the process of migrating to ROS 2, the new generation of robots.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, it's interesting to see people gradually shifting over to ROS 2. Like we're pushing internally pretty hard for ROS 2, and ROS 1 is like almost all going towards end of life very soon.
We know this is why we're doing this.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's a lot of reasons why we should. I think a lot of companies should advance to ROS 2, but it's important. And on top of that, we have our what we call the Robot Cloud Link. This is our development of the data transfer, telemetry data that is being transferred securely to our cloud infrastructure. And no, we're using ROS, and we're really happy from that because we are able to use also a lot of analytic tools to help us in development and also in production.
Awesome. And then, so when you get up to the cloud layer, so you have your middle layer that helps with the data transfer. When you get the data up to your cloud layer, what are you guys using up there?
So we started with so we are cloud agnostic. It's one of the things we basically.
So you can run on any servers.
So we can
you're
run
saying,
on any servers.
Is that what you mean?
Yes. So we can run
okay.
On any
You're not like heavily bought into some one that makes it hard to switch, is what you're saying with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. We started with this. Yeah. So it was good for the beginning to reduce the effort from our side of development, but as we go further, there is some customers who prefer this cloud or another cloud. Some of them would like their own cloud development, deployment. Sorry. So it's important for us to be able to do all that.
Mm-hmm. Doron, are your customers mostly in Israel? Are they in the States? Are they in Europe? Like, where are they around the world? And I don't know. What has your customer makeup been so far?
Yeah, so actually, most of our traction is in North America. We have customers in the States. We have customers in Canada. We have some customers in Israel, obviously. It was easier during COVID. We actually started selling during COVID, so it was easier to travel. And we just onboarded not very long ago our first customer in Europe. So today we even have an installation in Belgium. That's the first one, and many more to come.
Yeah, once people see it and everything, that's really exciting.
Yeah, actually, it's the wow factor of the technology is quite impressive. So we had this. This is quite a funny story. We met an Israeli company which has branches all around the world, and we were talking to them during COVID, and they wanted to install the product, and they were very slow. And then they went to Canada, and they've seen our product installed in someone else's office. And when they came back, they contacted us, and said, "We saw it in Canada, and we met you like a year ago. We want it tomorrow morning in our office." So that was fun. Yeah. It's generally saying that it makes a lot of sense once you see the technology actually actually working. So the viral factor in that sense is something that we never anticipated it is going to be that strong. But today, when someone just goes and sees a live demonstration of the system, in a real customer site, this is the best sales pitch that we could ever imagine.
Oh, I bet. That's so cool. Okay. So you're figuring out your pricing model for security, or is security figured out and warehouses you're figuring out the pricing, or how does it, because you mentioned that the market fit is quite there. So you're just iterating a little bit on the pricing model, or how does all that fit?
So so obviously there are micro factors and there are micro and macro factors. So on the macro side, what we see in the last 2 years is the silicon shortage. The price of components went really high. Our BOM doubled itself in the last 2 years.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah, that's really ST electronics, microprocessors, STM microprocessors that you could buy, for
Readily are no longer available.
yeah, and you had to either redesign everything and replace them, or just use really pay, like for some components we are paying 50, 60 times more, DC to DC converters and other um, electronic components. So there were the macro events and micro events with the readiness to pay for a system that is quite new and no one really knows how to price it. And we are the first ones to actually put the price tag on this service. And exactly the question that you asked. So how do you price? What price do you put to a security drone versus a drone that monitors temperatures and keeps equipment safe? And if you already keep the equipment safe, can you also provide me with the security services? Because you're already there. So this is something that we play with the idea of how to charge per service or per install or so on and so forth. And there is the idea with the partners, because we don't, in order to scale globally, we are a 42 full-time employees company. We can't install in Australia, for instance. So obviously we are working with partners in each country, in each region. We are working with a partner that actually takes the heavy lifting, the installation, the tier one support, and so on. So the partner is used to charge for, is used to his own business models. Exactly. So we are currently learning. It's something that we do the learning globally, and we will implement it.
Yeah, so it's still feeling it out very much because customers want different things. How do different features factor into that price if the infrastructure is already there? How do very specific custom things work if they need you to integrate with their doors and their doors use this protocol you've never seen or whatever? It's like that makes it custom. And once you've seen enough of the customers, then you can start to generalize. But at the moment, it's kind of specific because you're figuring it out.
Exactly, and the dream is obviously to be so competitive that your local, your neighborhood supermarket will install one, without hesitating.
That will be wonderful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Uh, Amit, I'd be interested to hear from the part shortages your perspective on that, just kind of, I don't know, the macro trends that Doron was speaking about. What have you thought about that, and how has that been as an engineering challenge? It sounds like sometimes you just eat the cost and pay 60 times more for a component, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So it was, it's a challenge, and when there is a challenge, there is innovation. And this is what we are saying all the time. And we had each and every time to figure out what we do. We got together. We kind of try to understand if can we predict ourselves and basically get as many parts as we can. I think a lot of companies did. It's actually contributed to the shortage as well. And
It's like with, at least in the States, we had like panic buying where everyone bought all the toilet paper. So it could be this for chips where they're like, oh my God, we need to get everything. So then they go and buy all the things. And now it's a shortage because people are taking way more than they would use in a given time. I wonder if that dynamic happened. It
I
probably
think
did.
so. I think it's what they're saying, at least what people are saying. The big companies specifically bought crazy amount of storage for those of those components, and then you need to buy from all kind of places that sell you 10 times, 60 times price, and it's crazy. So in some cases we had to pay price to avoid the redesign, because everything has a price. Redesign has a price as well. So it was mostly a price challenge, because we had to kind of put the tag on anything, the price tag on anything that we are doing, and try to understand if it's worth to do that or that, and how we are solving it. Are we solving it operationally, but by buying more or eating the cost, or we are solving it by changing the design? And it also takes time and effort. Generally speaking, it wasn't fun. I can say it wasn't something. It's not like it's not. It wasn't fun because a lot of the development was on replacing chips or replacing components and doing redesigns of stuff, um, while while we were hoping to work on other stuff. But the happy thing is that we managed to reduce costs in some substantial places. Even after the shortage, it will be much better to do what we did. So, yeah.
Hell yeah. And then I don't know exactly who this question should be directed at, but I'm interested in kind of how you guys do manufacturing. And is it in-house, or how has that been if you do it in other places? Uh, I don't know. You want to just jump in if you like want to talk on manufacturing? Because I'm interested from this, like how that's been and what you guys have been doing.
I can start on and tell me if you want to. Um, yeah, so we have very. So we have this engineering a group here that they are in charge of the manufacturing and quality testing, the finished goods, etc. We
Are
are,
they within your company? They're within the company,
yeah,
Indoor
yeah,
Robotics, correct? Okay.
right now. So we are the final assembly we're doing ourselves, and the whole serial manufacturing is also by itself. It's a very interesting field of how to take a prototype that we did a year or two ago, and make it and prototype it suddenly. Exactly how we can increase the scale of those of the manufacturing, how we do sub assemblies, how we are creating processes for calibrations, for testing repeatedly the same thing again, making sure it's the right quality. So it was very interesting. We brought some experienced people to help us with that. So we have an operation team and engineering team who are doing exactly that.
Mm-hmm. Doran, anything to add?
Yeah, so as Amit mentioned, today at the current scale, we are doing everything. Next year, we believe we will sign with, we are actually already in discussions, but next year we are going to sign with a serial manufacturer, with an EMS. Um, and actually start building devices outside. But at the stage we are at, and the complexity of robotics in general, and to get your baby, to get out there, to give it to someone else to manufacture, requires a lot of attention. So we decided that 2022 we're going to have all the operations inside. So we recruited a director of operations, director of engineering. We have our own warehouse with a warehouse manager. We employed a buyer that is taking care of sourcing all the components. So we have all the operation needed, and now when we already have it and we figured it out, it's much easier to take it
To
to a
someone
third party.
else and say, do
Exactly.
this. How do you find, what was the, you said ESM for the thing? What's the
EMS, Electronics
EMS?
Manufacturing Service. Yeah.
How do you find a good electronics manufacturing service? Like, what does that even look like to go find one?
Yeah, that's a very good question. First, I will say that I guess that you could interview someone who would have more experience than us, because we are just at the
Well, it's
beginning.
still
But what?
interesting where you're at. Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing to do this kind of the best you
So
can? Because that's how I assume you're proceeding.
so it's all getting, there is this flowchart of decisions that you need to make. One of the and there are lots of decisions. There are decisions about where do you want to pay the customs. If you're going to sell, what is your major market? Are you going to sell in the US and you prefer to have everything manufactured um, in the US, or maybe in South America where the labor is cheaper, and the shipping cost is cheaper as well. Um, so you have several questions. What we decided is that at the stage of the company, we prefer to manufacture near home. So we are going to do it in Israel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. And once we decided we were going to do it in Israel, basically we went to all the local, the biggest local EMS in Israel. Some of them are global companies, such as Flex and Jabil, and stuff like that. Some are local, smaller manufacturers, and we met them all. We heard about the processes. We got quotes. We met the people who are going to be responsible for our product in case we engage with them. And we are currently, we actually have a decision, but nothing was signed yet. We hope to sign next year. And what I can say and obviously we consult friends. There are lots of other companies here in Israel with, which are already manufacturing with those companies. And we got feedbacks from everyone we could. And what we see, which is quite fun, is that companies are moving from one EMS to the other all the time. So they start with one, and after a few years, when they exactly, they went with another one with it's cheaper, and then they came back, and one company which are good friends of us are actually manufacturing in two different facilities. Uh, they have also a robot and a base station. So they manufacture the robot in one place and the base station in another place, and so that's stuff that we are going probably to figure out next year.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot. I imagine I think it's probably a good decision to keep it close to home. I've talked to many CEOs and this kind of thing that like end up taking a huge trip like I don't know, they'll go spend months in wherever they're having their manufacturing done, and then they'll constantly be over there and back and like supervising and this kind of thing. So keeping it close, at least at this stage, probably seems like a very good decision.
Definitely.
Interesting. How do you think of manufacturing in general in Israel? Like I'm not very knowledgeable at this. How is Israel in terms of hardware manufacturing, and what's the ecosystem like there?
So actually, Israel is not very much into hardware manufacturing. So um, you could, if you had to color the countries which are, default go-to for manufacturing, you would probably first go to China. But then again, if you want to sell your product in the US and that's the main market, China is not that friend of the US, at least since COVID. Um, the second option would probably be Eastern Europe. But then again, when you look at the situation at Eastern Europe these days, that could also be a problem.
Yeah. So it's in a sense, it's like, okay, China's one option, not very good on the global scale, at least if your market's the US. And then you look at Eastern Europe and you see Russia and all that, Russia, Ukraine, the whole thing. You're like, it's kind of unstable. We'll just keep it close to home. It's like the least bad.
No, so actually, I was half kidding about the Eastern European situation because there are lots of other countries. So Ukraine Israel is a very big employer for the Ukraine people. We have most of the Israeli companies I know have branches in Ukraine. Some engage with remote work. Um, but there are other countries in Eastern Europe, and the labor wage is quite
Much
similar.
lower. Oh,
Yeah,
similar to Ukraine, you're saying, but lower than,
yeah,
I don't know,
yeah,
the US or something. Okay.
exactly. But though the reason we, decided to manufacture in Israel, at least for the next few years, is not the cost. Is, as you mentioned, it's the proximity of how much time it takes to the engineering manager to get on site in case we have some blocker. Because blockers in production are they hurt.
Yes.
Yeah. So once you pay for the line, it costs you, um, few tens of thousands of dollars per month to keep the production line working. And if you have a blockage, that costs you a lot of money. And not only that you're paying for production line which is inactive, you're also not delivering products that
For customers. Yeah.
exactly for customers. So
Hurts
you
on
lose
two
from both
ends,
directions.
basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
Oof.
think it's also no, it's about the experience. Since we brought some experienced people to help out with that, no, a lot of people are thinking, no, I'll go to the east, I'll do it very cheap there, and it will be very good. And actually, in the end, it costs more money, but it's the hidden cost you don't think about. It's the travel, the fact that if something happens, how fast you can do. Um, Even language barriers and cultural differences and stuff like that. Since we are a small company, we're focused on getting fast and to the market. We don't want. We prefer to do something which is we have more control on the quality on everything. So
That it sounds like the smartest approach to me, because it's like, you guys are putting yourself in a position where you can learn a lot and you can iterate frequently. Um, it's like that to me is way better than, I don't know, like in building things. A lot of times it feels like people want to go and build the perfect thing right away, build the thing that's optimized at all the levels. But it's like we can take a little step, and that step will teach a lot of learning. And if we optimized all the way over here, maybe we want to end over here. So it was that big cost that we kind of missed. Um, and then keeping it so you guys can have like better lives, in a sense, like not traveling to far away, like not a plane ride or a big trip away for every single blocker, which at the beginning maybe there's a lot, so then you just live somewhere else for a while, and families and everything else. So I feel like that's a really good decision.
great.
Hell yeah. Let's see. So where do you actually, um, what's your funding look like currently? So are you venture funded at the moment? Are you bringing in enough money for, like, have you broken even in terms of like selling to customers, or like, I guess, where's your funding at, or what's your funding like? And maybe Doran. Hmm.
Yeah. So no, we're not at break even. It will take us. It will take us a year or two to get there. We were lucky enough to onboard great VCs that supported us. We have Pitango, which is the biggest Israeli VC. They supported us since pre-seed, which is not very common in robotics. And some other VCs who joined lately. We closed about 6 months ago. We closed our A round, and we raised $18 million. Which
What was your
takes us.
valuation at for that?
I don't really remember.
Okay, a good bit higher than that. So that's that's awesome.
Yeah, it's higher, and it's once you close the round, the last thing you want is to relive that time.
The horror of it, yeah.
Exactly, the horse. So we're right to the next target, conquering the
Yep, the next funding
the market,
right after that.
Exactly. So in that sense, we were lucky to onboard some great VCs, and one very surprising investor of the company is the European Union.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is surprising. But why do you think they are investing? Like, what's their interest?
So the European Union started a VC. It's called the EAC Fund. And they are actually investing money in companies. It's managed by the European Innovation Council. That's where the EAC comes from. They supported the company during the COVID times. We got a grant. This is something which is not non-dilutive. And
What's
it
that
was
word?
about, sorry?
The non-dilutive? What is it?
Non-dilutive. So it's a non-dilutive, yeah. It's money that we don't need to return, and they didn't
just
get any
supporting
equity.
The initiative.
Exactly, because they believe in the impact that we offer, specifically for Europe. So it was really, installing in Europe, in Belgium, a few months ago, was really, it was a closure in that sense. So we got the grant 2020, and this is something that we won, and we were really. It was before COVID. Amit and I were actually visiting physically Brussels.
That's so exciting. Talking to government people and everything.
So at March.
Oh, right before COVID.
Yeah, right before COVID. And this was really amazing because this money helped us getting through, the hard
that
time
dark
of
period of immediately after COVID, when no one knew what was going on and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. So after that, we were also lucky to receive to have them participating in our A round.
For dilution, I suppose.
Yeah, this time they got,
because it's a larger amount of funding, and they want a stake.
It was about 2.5 million euros, which was equivalent to $3 million. Yeah, this is quite great.
What a help. You can hire a bunch of people on that. That's absolutely
wonderful.
Definitely.
We scaled to 20 employees. We were 8 to 10 employees before COVID, and we scaled to 20 something employees during COVID, which was quite amazing. Yeah. They participated in the last round. They put 5 million euros out of the $18 million that we raised, which is great. And we onboarded some other great venture capitals. We now have VC from the Valley, Spider Capital, who are they are amazing. They are helping, and they're with us, and they're opening doors, and we can use their office in Union Square. So that's another bonus. So that's funding wise. And as I mentioned, we are not profitable yet, but we are showing some nice and steady growing ARR.
Mm-hmm. How many robots do you have in deployment, would you guess?
Today a few dozens deployed, and would say about we are by the end of this year, which we are recording this podcast on December 2022. So we have a few dozens. I hope that by the time you will upload it, we will be able to say hundreds.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be so exciting. Yeah, because it's probably like one of those exponential curves in terms of how many you're distributing. So getting from 0 to 10 took a while, and 10 to 20 took less time. And then 10 to 50 is going to be even less. Or maybe it'll be as much time as it was from 10 to 20 or something like this. Faster,
Yeah,
faster, faster, faster,
and
than
with the help
thousands.
of the EMS, the manufacturer that we are going to hire next year, we hope to get we hope that by 2024 we get to the thousands.
Mm-hmm. Amit, so growing as you guys have in the last 5 years, what is kind of like the team number over time? Like, how has that changed? I imagine that's also been like an exponential curve too. Like very, like probably you two for a while, and then you brought on up to five, and then you brought on up to 10, and it happened faster, faster. But how has it been also managing the like technical side and the technical team? Like I'm interested in your experience of this, but
Well, wonderful. I think it's the word that comes up to my mind. Yeah, because I think I learned that I'm a very optimistic person, but it's wonderful because first you see something you created from scratch, from an idea. We still have the first cardon kind of mock-up we did in 2018, and see it flying at customer sites, etc. So it's awesome. Um, and and leading technologically this company, which is uh, probably every part of an engineering work we're doing. We have, as we said before, from mechanical design, electronics, PCBs, um, aerodynamics, control system, algorithm development, mapping, crazy, and the cloud application. The deep learning. So it's it's mind blowing. We're doing every month here in our company since a few years ago. Every month we're doing what we call the monthly. Is that everyone is coming up for an hour or so, and every team or group demos or they're presenting the work they did, all kind of achievements, and it's just crazy to see the amount of things and the the vast of differences of things are working on. People working on GUI applications, and the other person are working on how the electronics are being assembled in the right way and in a very efficient manner for the serial manufacturing. So for that, it's extremely interesting. I learned so much. Obviously, one of the challenging things is that you cannot know everything. It's impossible. You have to have great people with you that are knowledgeable in their fields, and they can lead and take the decisions when they need to, and so know everything about the transparency of how decisions are being made, and the design reviews and everything are extremely interesting, and it's real teamwork. For that, it was awesome. And scaling the company, scaling the R&D specifically, was also great because you bring more people. Suddenly, you see how those interactions are doing. It was challenging because it was pretty important for Doron and I to keep the culture. We had kind of very early in the time. In the beginning of the company, we created this company culture guidelines. It was extremely important for us to keep. The first thing we are saying in our company culture is be human, be a good person. Help each other, be there for your teammate, for your colleagues, and stuff like that. So it was very important for us to do so, to keep those culture guidelines while we are scaling. Um, so it was extremely interesting. The same as having kids, at least for me, it's great and very hard. So it's like the same.
yeah, because you're growing with the company, they're growing with you. They're getting more sophisticated over time. Your workforce or your research team is getting more sophisticated, can do more. Then you're probably understanding what's going on in their lives less and less, because they're getting into like more complex social situations, and you can't know everything, and their decisions are not becoming as simple. I imagine that's actually a very good metaphor, the company and kids. Very interesting. How was the growth like over time? So over the last 5 years, like what does the plot look like? Just out of curiosity. So was it like year one or zero in 2018? It was you two, and then year three was 10 people, and then now you're at 40. Is it kind of like that, or?
Doron, you remember all the numbers, think better than me.
Yeah. So we started, Amit and I, and our first employee was Gil, who is managing the software today. We grew to 8 people, if I'm not mistaken, but by the end of 2018, or yeah, 2018, 2019 maybe.
It doesn't need to be perfectly accurate too, but just like
Yeah,
the shape is interesting.
yeah. So, but I think that 8 people, 8 full-time employees by the end of 2018. Obviously, the salaries were, of 5 people. I didn't take any salary on the first year. Uh, Amit, Amit barely took anything, and yeah, enough to live, and we were very conservative in that way. Um, so 2019 we scaled a little bit, not too much. 2020, as I mentioned, we were able to grow toward, we doubled ourselves to 18 full-time employees after getting the grant. And late 2021, we had the A round, or at least started closing, the first safe nodes for the A round. And that's when we started scaling toward 40 employees, which is what we have today.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
I think we're very.
Do you? Oh, go ahead.
No, I just want to say we were always trying to be very conservative, our approach, and we are happy we did. So not taking too much risk with hiring a lot of people at the moment who have the money, and it's especially now when you see what's going on in the world, we are quite happy.
It's good to be conservative now, probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The hedge.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, you guys literally, it seems, have come up in this really uncertain time. I mean, you have COVID, and you have like international conflict, and you have part supply shortages and things like this. So you guys have been making it, and it seems like doing very well in a very turbulent time. It's like it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. Like the technology is so exciting, the world is chaos, this kind of thing. um, what So thinking forward, like the next 5 years or so, and I'm kind of interested in both of your respective domains. So Doron with the company, and Amit with kind of the technology of what you guys are working on and where you'll be focusing. But feel free to bleed into each other, because I'm sure you guys work very closely. Where do you think you guys are going to go in, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 years? Like, what do you hope will be the future of your company? Let's start with Doron.
Sure. So I would say that what we're going to do in the next few years is getting Tendo to the market and scaling it to different territories worldwide. We have already customers waiting for us in Asia and Australia, South Africa, South America, and other territories. So this is obviously something that we will do in the next few years. Yeah, so in the next 10 years, our vision is for robotics, and this is really, there are I would say, two really different approaches to the future of robotics. One is the humanoid, where some people believe we will have, in 10 years, those human-like robots that can do everything from washing the dishes to cleaning the carpet to, whatever. Um, the other approach, which kind of what leads us as Indoor Robotics, is that what we are going to see in the next few years are lots of very task-oriented devices that are giving a solution to a very specific, well-defined problem. And if you think about it, Tando is all about that. We want to collect data indoors in the most effective manner, and therefore we've chosen a drone and we developed Tando. So if you ask me what could be the next developments from Indoor Robotics, is either the orchestration of those platforms to perform different tasks, because we already have the data. We know what the premises looks like. We can update not only the map, not only the physical map, the walls and everything. We can also position items on the map, tell you when doors are opened or closed, even if there is no sensor connected to those doors.
So a lot
And
more like scene understanding related technologies.
Exactly. So in a way, there is the data collection that we've done. There is the data processing that we are doing right now, and there is the acting upon this data, which is kind of, I believe, the future for Indoor Robotics.
Gotcha. That's interesting. Yeah, I think I bet you, well, these more specialized applications are definitely going to come first before a general purpose robot is what makes most sense to me. And focusing kind of like, okay, we have this mobile platform, we're just getting data, and now we have a bunch of data. And then now we're going to focus on more like semantic level things. And our tasks are going to get more interesting and richer, and maybe we have more understanding of what's going on. That seems like a very good direction to me. Hmm. And Amit, where do you think you guys are heading? Like, what interesting problems are you excited to start tackling? Or like, I don't know, where are you headed?
First, Doron and I are very aligned. We have this discussion very often and very early also in the stage of indoor robotics. So everything you said, it's basically there. I agree. I think that uh, I will just add one thing that one of the reasons we chose this monitoring and data collection as a start is because there is a lot to do there, and I think there is by providing a platform that can collect data, we can do. We might not even imagine what kind of things we can do with this data. Like can imagine like the Google Street View of the indoor space, or uh, create a digital twin that is constantly updating. You have a digital twin that gives you an exact uh, replica which is up to date. So this is like extremely interesting part. Um, so we're thinking about this is going to be very interesting part of indoor robotics.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder, it'd be awesome. Like, this is a trivial use case, but if you had like a perfect updating world, like 3D world of my current environment, it's like, where did I leave my phone? And like, instead of pinging it or whatever, like that'd be very cool. Or you could look for stuff, or
Exactly.
I don't know.
One of the
Uh,
funny thing that I did is connected a virtual reality headset uh, to be able to explore in virtual reality the areas that we are patrolling at. So by combining this virtual reality and augmented reality and the data collection, the videos, we can do crazy stuff.
mhm. I bet. Yeah, that'll open up a lot of things. I agree that it'll probably be like we can't really imagine the good use cases that we'll start to find once we enable these kinds of things. Yeah, there's a few very interesting technologies that it's like they're going to open up so much that are so exciting. I think this being one of them. Um, let's see. So wrapping up, um, what do you guys actually? What advice do you have for someone who wants to start a robotics company? So imagine someone who's finished school and wants to start a company, kind of follow in your footsteps in some way. Let's start with Amit.
It's a very good question. I would say be bold, be optimistic, um, uh, don't think all things that can go wrong. Think about the things that can go right, because everything can go wrong. There is so many moving parts in robotics. Um, if we knew everything we know now, I'm not sure we would have done it. So you need to be very optimistic.
Mm-hmm. Amit, what do you think from like a skills perspective? Like, I'm sure you understand a few technologies very well, and a lot of technologies just a little bit, because you have to work with such a large team. How would you think to prepare yourself in that dimension, if it was 10 or 20 years ago or something like this?
That's a good question. I would say. Um, so it depends where you see your edge as a company. What is, I mean, I was working on perception and understanding, so we know it's something that we were focusing on also from day one. Um, I think you can come from very different areas and still manage to do a very successful robotics company. I think that the most important thing to understand, and I think I said before, is that you cannot know everything. It's because the complexity. So you need to be very humble. You need to understand you probably know nothing. You know very specific thing. I mean, if you know perception, you know the perception, but there is like the locomotive if you're doing something like that, or aerodynamics or mechanics, etc. It's crazy and it's very important also. Vibrations, how the vibrations are affecting uh, the sensors, for example. If you don't take care of it, you'll have problems. So you need to be very humble and understand that there is a lot to do, a lot to learn, and get good people that can help you with that.
Awesome. And Doron, what would you what would you think for advice for someone who wants to follow in a similar path?
So first, Amit gave a great answer, on the technical side. And I'm also coming from technical background, but I will take the CEO position for a second. And I will say that raising money for hardware companies, especially for robotics companies, is hard. Um, I would say that you need to come with a really robust go-to-market strategy in a way that investors will feel comfortable investing in your product. Um, in software as a service companies, it takes you a few months to get to a product market fit, to show that you were able to onboard some customers. And in robotics, obviously, the time until you are able to deploy a product in a paying customer site, is much longer. So obviously, coming with the go-to-market strategy with um, some letters of intent, LOIs, from customers saying this is something that we are willing to pay for, or we are paying today this and that for something which is not as good as what these people are offering. This would be some very good start from that side. And as Amit mentioned, be very optimistic, a little bit stupid. um, yeah, and if and you need to be ready. It's not going to be an easy one. It's not a walk in the park. It takes time. You need to fail fast. That's some very good advice that we got at a very early stage. We failed all the time. Sometimes we are failing, uh, you know 10 times a day. But you need to remember that failing this is how you grow. You can't solve things unless you fail. This is the opportunity. So I'm not saying that you need to fail deliberately, but it's a good.
Yeah, it's putting yourself in a situation where you get feedback, and feedback may be you fail, but you learn through this.
It's a trial and error journey.
For sure. Okay, now finally wrapping up. Do you guys have any links or contact info to share? Doron, you can share first, and then Amit.
First, you can share our LinkedIn accounts, and I'm always happy to help founders of companies in an early stage, looking for some advice or a connection or something. So this is something that feel free to mention. And generally speaking, people should feel comfortable contacting me. So yeah, our website, indoor-robotics.com, the LinkedIn.
I'll put a link to it on the episode description. So yeah, you don't have to know those exact URLs, but okay, those sound good.
www.linkedin.com/in/DoronBD.
Yeah. Okay, now I don't need to include it. Perfect. Okay, hell yeah. Amit, anything to share?
No, we're not Twitter persons here. So yeah, LinkedIn is great. Yeah, contact me, send me a message.
Okay, very good. It's been a pleasure speaking with both of you.
Likewise.
Thank you, Audro.
All right. Bye, everyone.